Chelsea, who's going to be talking about her experience. She, when we were walking in, she was saying, well, I was going to do a PowerPoint, and when she filled out actually the survey, somebody said they were going to talk for 35 to 40 minutes about all the services that VIP gives, which is great that there's so many of them. But Chelsea thought that it's much more meaningful actually when we share our own personal experiences rather than directing people to screens where there's a lot of information. And she's been working for 10 years in these kinds of programs and has been at VIP for 5 years. So we're really, really happy that Chelsea came here today to talk to us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So yes, typically when I come and do any kind of presentation or any kind of educational training in the community, I always have a PowerPoint, a screen for people to look at so that nobody feels like they have to stare at me the whole time. But I do feel like we end up losing a connection with people when we do that. And in my experience, groups tend to be more engaging or feel more comfortable asking questions when we just have a conversation, something very informal. So I'm just here to tell you who we are and what we really do. And please forgive me because I have notes on my phone to keep myself on track because I'm a talker. That's why this is my job, to literally talk and get paid for it. So I might look down at my phone once in a while, but it's really just to keep me on track so that I don't waste everybody's time on a million tangent stories, which I know to do. So I feel like most everybody might be familiar with VIP. Is there anybody who's never heard of us before? Anybody on?
Oh,
Just me?
let me get
I don't know if anybody on Zoom has heard of us before. Okay. But I was having a conversation earlier about the fact that we are in Wayne and Pike County, but there is a program like VIP in every county across the United States of America. So if we typically work in Wayne and Pike, but we're in Sullivan County, New York right now, is that right?
Yes.
So I think Fearless might be the program that works with domestic and sexual violence survivors here. I'm not entirely sure if they cover Sullivan County. I know they do Orange County and I think Sullivan. But regardless, there is a program for every county in the United States of America because the work that we do is so widespread and so necessary. So a little bit about VIP. We work with survivors of crime and abuse. And the main populations are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, rape, childhood sexual assaults, human trafficking, stalking, and other crimes. And that other crime sometimes gets lost, but people who experience identity theft or insurance fraud, or their home was broken into, or they witnessed, they survived a school shooting, they survived a church shooting, those things that we hate to think about, but the things that we see on the news every single day, we are trained to work with those survivors. We work with anybody who is 5 and older. The soft 5, because sometimes you get a 4-year-old with the mind of a 15-year-old. Other times you get a 10-year-old who really just isn't operating at a 10-year-old level and might need a higher level of care. And in those cases, we will make sure to hook them up with somebody who can really help them if we're not the right place for them. And we will work with anybody. We don't discriminate based on gender, sexual identity, religion, politics. It doesn't matter. If you're somebody who needs help, we're going to be here for you. The only people that we will not serve are perpetrators of crime. So if they, oftentimes, if they are somebody who has a restraining order or a protection from abuse order against them, we will try to refer them out to other services because we really don't want maybe them to come through our door and their victim come through our door as well at the same time. It's just not a good recipe for anybody. So abusers and perpetrators of crime are the only people that we will not serve. And our services can be done in person, over the phone, in our office, or off-site. And I'll get a little more into off-site in a few minutes. I think if you take anything away, just know that our services come at no cost. So I know a lot of times people think of going to counseling, like, I don't have the money for that. I can't afford it. You don't need to afford us. That's the point of us, is that we are here for everybody, regardless of their financial situation. So our services come at absolutely no cost. And that means everything we do, from these kind of presentations to individual counseling to medical advocacy and training police officers, whatever it is, no cost. And our services are confidential. And what that means is that everything a victim says to us stays with us. And we take it very seriously, because if we break confidentiality, it's not just about losing our jobs or losing the trust of our client, but our entire agency could close down if it goes high enough. And we don't want that, because that takes services away for everybody else in the community. So we take our confidentiality very seriously. And the only time that we would ever breach confidentiality is if somebody discloses child abuse that is current, and if there's a child in danger. We're all mandated reports, so we do have to report those kind of incidences, but we talk with our victims beforehand. And we make sure that everybody understands our limits of confidentiality before they start talking, so that they can make a decision on what they want to say and how they want to phrase things. Because we don't want people to feel like we've tricked them into explaining something or to disclosing something and then turn around and say, well, now we have to call Children and Youth Services. And we do our best to bring them into the reporting process. So if they want to sit in the room while we make the report, if they want to sit with us and answer the questions that are going to be asked on a report, we do whatever we can to make them part of the process. Because most of the time, if we're making a report, the person we're talking to isn't the person we're reporting. It's maybe their spouse or their significant other who has been hurting the children along with themselves. So they're usually not the bad guy when we're reporting. So as I said, we help the victims, the direct victims, but we also help significant others. So if mom is coming into our agency for services, but her kids have been witnessing something on the side, or kids know that mom's not doing so great, she needs some help, we have counselors for them too. So anybody who has been affected by the abuse that somebody is experiencing, parents, children, grandparents, second cousins who are just really close friends, doesn't matter. If it's affected you, our services can help. And that goes for anybody in the community. So if we think back to when I said school shootings, right? Hate to think about it, but it's going to affect every single one of us if it happens in our community. It affects us when it happens across the country. It hurts. And those are times when anybody can call us. You don't have to work in the school. You don't have to have children in the school. You could just hear it on the news and say, I need to process this with somebody. Please just let me talk. That's what we're here for. You call us. So anybody who is collaterally affected by crime. This is why I have it on my phone, because I'm like, oh, what did I just say? And where am I going? Where was I going with this? And while we're based in Wayne and Pike counties, so we have an office in Milford, Pennsylvania, and Honesdale, Pennsylvania. But we're not geographically restricted. So we're restricted when it comes to, like, where can I go and put posters? I'm not allowed to cross those county lines to leave posters anywhere. But if somebody from Narrowsburg is experiencing something and they don't feel comfortable going to whatever program is in Narrowsburg, or they happen to work in Pike County and it's easier for them to come to us for counseling during the workday, that's fine, because the abuse doesn't change from place to place. All victims will experience similar things. So our counseling services can help anybody, regardless of where they are geographically. And the same goes for our hotline. We have some repeat callers who know are calling from, like, California, but you're not going to hang up the phone because you're not in Pennsylvania, you're not in our county. We're still going to help you. The only thing we might do is make referrals if they know that there's a place that might be closer, the resources might be different. Because if you're asking us for legal resources, well, we don't live in your county, we don't work in your county, we're not familiar with your county. So our legal resources might only be for our geographical clients, but we might refer you out for those kind of questions that we just don't want to give the wrong answer to. All right, so what does VIP actually do? A lot. And I think most of the time when I start talking about our services, people are sometimes like blown away because they just think of us as a domestic violence shelter, which is a huge part of our work. It's where we started. That's our grassroots, is domestic violence and helping people flee violent situations. But we have so much more. When I talk about our services, I tend to break it down into two different categories. We have our 24-hour services and then our office hour services. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. Christmas morning, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, whatever, 2 o'clock on a random Tuesday, we're here. And we are answering our 24-hour hotline. So anybody in the middle of a crisis can call at any time. Like I said, does not matter. It's answered by a live person, somebody who has been adequately trained to talk to you. And that person on the phone also has a backup who has been adequately trained to answer the calls and help their staff process through and help them find options for the person on the phone. So there's always a 2-person play on the phone. So our hotline is 24/7. Our shelter services are also 24/7. So we do have a physical safe house that is in an undisclosed location. So nobody will ever know where it is except the police. And that's a place where people can go if they are unsafe anywhere else. If they need to leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, they call us. If they have time to pack a bag, great. If not, we'll get you clothes. We'll get you food. You don't have to worry about it. And we can put them into the safe house. Sometimes we have to use hotels. It just kind of depends on how full our actual physical shelter is, or if the person has pets. Because along with our shelter, we also are really proud to say that we have a pet shelter. Because we know that oftentimes abusers take that beautiful connection between human and their pets and they manipulate it and they use their pets as a means of control, and we hate it. So if we can break that barrier down for people to leave, because it's one of the biggest barriers. Most people refuse to leave abusive relationships because they are afraid to leave their pets home with their abuser. So we've worked really hard to make a connection where we don't have to leave them behind. Now, the pet shelter is not necessarily accessible 24/7. So if somebody's calling us at 2 in the morning and they want to bring their dog, we'll try to find a pet-friendly hotel that we can pay for the night just to get them out of the house somewhere safe with their pup. And then the next morning, bring everybody to shelter. And unfortunately, our pets and our humans can't stay together because, woof, that's a really big liability. And we don't have that kind of insurance, but we can facilitate like meetups, and our shelter advocate can go pick up the animal, bring them over for a few hours and bring them back to their safe shelter too. And our pet shelter is also a confidential location. So I don't even know where our pet shelter is. I like to think of it as some big, beautiful farm where everybody's just running free, having a great time and playing with their like furry friends. But our shelter advocate does know, and we purposely keep it very quiet and confidential because there are other people's pets there. So it's not just our survivors' pets. It's like a doggy daycare kind of thing. So we just want to make sure that everybody's animals are safe. All of those workers are safe because they're not trained the same way our advocates are. So we're just happy to say that we can take pets and you don't have to leave your pets behind. Children too, of course, bring your kids, please. Please bring your kids with you.
Oh, them too.
But yes, adults and children are welcome into our shelter. Men and women are welcome into our shelter. So again, none of our services discriminate based on gender or sexuality. If you're more comfortable in a hotel and we have the funds to do that, we can put somebody in a hotel. Sometimes we'll do that if we have a house filled with women who have been sexually abused too. It's uncomfortable to see a strange man walking around sharing a bathroom. So if we can put them into a hotel, we will absolutely do that just to make everybody feel safe and comfortable. Also 24/7, we offer medical and legal accompaniments. And this means that legally, if somebody is looking for a protection order in the middle of the night and they have to go to their local courthouse to meet their local judge and petition for that, our advocates can go and meet them. Wherever that courthouse may be within the county, we'll meet them. We can help them fill out the paperwork. If they're going to the police station to file reports, we can meet them there and be with them to help explain things. Because our police are busy, so they don't have the time to sit down with somebody and talk it through step by step. And when somebody's just been through a really big trauma, you're not going to understand the paperwork. If you've just been through hell, and then they say, here's this 35-page packet, fill it out for us, that's really daunting. So our advocates are trained to fill those papers, those packets out and help them really understand what they are putting on the paper. And as far as medical goes, we have a really, really wonderful relationship with Wayne Memorial Hospital in Wayne County. And they, every single one of their emergency department workers, whatever their job title may be, is trained by us to recognize signs of human trafficking and domestic violence. And they know to call us instantly. They don't even really talk to the victim about it. They just say, we have an advocate on staff who's going to come and talk about your rights as a victim and talk you through the process of a forensic rape exam. Because again, our emergency department, our nurses, our workers, our doctors are busy. They can't stop the flow of people coming in. So unfortunately, they don't have the time to sit and explain everything to a victim, but we do. So 2 a.m, we're packing up and we're going out to the hospital to sit with somebody and talk about what happened and talk through all of their options and all the ways that VIP can help them. And then, so those are services that we offer all day, every day. And then during our regular business hours, we're an office, we're open from 9 to 4, 8:30 to 4:30. I don't know. Everybody has a different schedule. So just kind of whoever shows up first, that's when we're open. And during those hours, we offer counseling. So we have multiple counselors in each office. People come in for scheduled sessions and they just talk. They talk to somebody, human to human, somebody who's not going to judge them, somebody who knows a little bit about the complex experiences that they've had and who can just help them understand, process it, learn about it, educate themselves so that they feel more empowered to not let it happen again or to stop it the next time or to make a decision that's best for themselves and their family. We also have groups that run. Right now, I think the only group we have in our office is an art group. So we have a healing art group that meets for feels like it's all day on Fridays, and we have a whole art workshop for them, which is like a revamped garage. Now it's nice and insulated. It's always warm. It's always cool when we need it to be. And it is exactly how you would picture an art workshop. It is a mess, but it is such a creative mess that it's really, you walk in and you're like, I can create anything I want in here. So we have a really good group of women that go in there and they do art every Friday. They make really great things. And it's always fun to see the creativity that flows out of that building. It's really neat. But we also do groups outside of our office. So we have weekly groups with victims who are also incarcerated in the Pike County Correctional Facility, because we know a lot of times past abuse leads to drug use, drinking, which causes DUIs, or you become a criminal in a sense because you were never taught anything different, and this is how you're coping with what you went through. So we recognize that people who are incarcerated might also be victims, and we go and we meet with them every week. We do a group. And we also meet with them individually too if they request it. We can do that. And we have groups that run in the schools during the school year. And I'm missing something. What other group do we do? We used to do one at Malibu Wellness Center, which is, I don't know if anybody was familiar with Malibu Dude Ranch in Pike County. And it's been revamped into a drug and alcohol facility, recovery center. So we would go there and do groups with people in recovery who are also survivors, and with HRC, which is the Human Resource Center in Pike County and Wayne County, and they work with individuals with disabilities, and they're a very vulnerable group of people. So it's not necessarily us working with victims. We are working to prevent future victims. A lot of times we're just teaching them about healthy relationships and how to create boundaries and make sure that people respect your boundaries, but also how to respect other people's boundaries. Just how to ask for help, just very just stuff to help people feel safe and feel more confident in themselves. So we do that once a week as well. We have a really strong children's program because we work with children who have been abused and also children who have witnessed abuse in the home. We have 4 child counselors on our staff, so they do a lot of individual counseling with kids during the school year. who have been identified by their counselors. So they go in, honestly, during the school year, we have one child counselor in Pike County. That's my home office in Milford. I don't even see her during the school year because she is working in every school throughout the county by herself. She's the only one we have. So she goes to all like 9 schools in our county and works one-on-one with the kids that the counselors say need some help. So we barely see her during the school year. And then summertime, we're like, oh, look at this new employee who's coming back to the office. But during the summer, they work really hard to create programs to keep kids engaged with each other. Kids who might not have the best home life are now just stuck at home. So we do everything we can to keep them all coming back to us, keep communication, do something fun with other kids. We also have a housing program. I'm not going to get too much into detail because I don't even understand it sometimes. But we have a special funding to help victims find suitable and safe housing for themselves and their family. This is not shelter. This is like their own lease agreement that they sign with a landlord. It's their own place. They can do with it what they will. And we can pay the rent for sometimes up to a year. It just kind of depends on the situation and how much funding we have at that time. But it's almost like the next step after shelter. You're safe now, you're out of your abusive relationship. But now what? This isn't a world that most single people can afford to live in, unfortunately, especially if you have children. So we just help them get that hand up for the first year until they're able to sustain it themselves. And we have I wish I had those statistics, but we have a really successful exit rate where people oftentimes will be like, we're good. I actually don't need you anymore. I don't need to finish out this year because I can do it on my own. And we work with them with, we have 2 housing specialists that go and meet them in their new home, talk to them to help them understand how to be a renter, because most of them have never done that on their own before, how to create a budget, how to stick to a budget, how to allocate costs in different places. They really work hard to make sure that they can stand on their own 2 feet when the program is over. We have a really successful turnout with that. And then, of course, a big part of our job and our mission is to do this, to come out and talk to people about our services, talk about different topics. I feel like we might have had somebody come in to talk about human trafficking here at one point. Did we do that? It was us, yeah. So just educating the community on what we do and all the work we do and how you guys can be part of the solution is huge for us, because you might not need our services, but I promise that you know someone who does, because everybody knows somebody who has been a victim or is who's just surviving right now, but you just might not realize it at this moment. So now when you run into them and you understand what's happening, you can say, I know somebody who can help you. I know a place. You might not remember our name, but you can ask a friend, you can search for us, and you're just going to know that a place like us exists to help people. Which is why I also brought some of our brochures. Sorry for those of you on Zoom, can't get them, but if you ever come in, maybe you guys can share them. Yeah. We have some brochures that people can just, I say, keep them in your car, keep them in your purse, because you never know when somebody might need our services. And I also brought some nail files, which seems really weird, like a really weird thing to bring, but I promise there's a point to them. The nail files just have our phone number on it, because it's not safe for everybody to take our brochure home. Because if you're living with an abuser and they find a victims intervention program brochure in your purse or in your car, sometimes that can lead to serious trouble. But like, nobody's going to look twice at the nail file at the bottom of your at the bottom of your bag or tucked away in your cup holder of your car. So for people that might not be safe taking a brochure or something very descriptive, that's a great way to get them our phone number. So I always suggest keeping 1 or 2 of those on you, just somewhere that you can get out when you need it. People always ask about our funding, so just really quickly, we are funded by 3 main umbrella funders: Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the Pennsylvania Coalition to Advance Respect, which was formerly the PA Coalition Against Rape, and then they just changed their name a few months ago, and the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So those are our main funders. They trickle money down to us for all different types of services. But it's only maybe 30 to 40% of our funding comes from our main funders. The rest is donations, fundraisers, and smaller community grants. Like the Wayne Memorial Hospital gives out a $5,000 grant every year that we always apply for specific projects or events that we want to do. The community foundations, the United Way foundations, just all of those little small grants really help put the pieces together and allow us to keep moving. And that's it. So what questions do you have?
Do you yourself go into the schools to speak like this?
It depends. So you mean talk to like teachers or students?
Students.
Sometimes. It's what we notice is it's really, I don't like to use the word hard, but sometimes it's really hard for us to get into the schools. And I think there's a few reasons for that. One, I don't think schools like to recognize that there's a problem in their school. So almost like, you know how there's that myth where if you talk to somebody about suicide, well, now they're gonna do it because you've talked about it. I think the same like thought process might be true sometimes for schools where they're like, well, if we bring you in to talk about rape and dating violence, well, then it's gonna happen. But the reality is it's already happening. And we know it because your kids are coming to us outside of school. So sometimes I think there's a little bit of a hesitancy to have us in. And also, I mean, it's really hard for people to talk to kids about dating violence and consent because, again, there's that theory that if you talk about consent, which means you're talking about sex, now kids are just going to go have sex all the time. Like, your kids are having sex all the time anyway, so let's talk about safe sex. Sometimes it's just really daunting for schools, and I totally get it. Really, I do. And other times, it's just a time. Where they have so much to do and so much to schedule, where do you find the time to fit in another guest speaker? But like I said, our child counselors are in the school all the time. So usually in February, we have better luck of getting an assembly together where we can talk about teen dating violence. I think we did it in 2 or 3 different schools last year where, I mean, it's a big assembly with 500 kids in front of us at one time, and that is a PowerPoint type of presentation, but at least we're there and we get them. And then they do have groups that they'll run in the school, either with kids who have already been a victim of something and now we're trying to help them process through that or to stop it from happening another time. And other times it's just good old prevention practices and prevention groups. So we really try our hardest, and most schools want us to come. They just can't find the time to fit us in. But it's a good question.
Tom has a question.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
Historical. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yeah. Is VIP the same entity as Women's Resource Center? In the 80s, I completed a 40-hour class with a Women's Resource Center, and I'm just wondering if they organization or if
they are. So we have sister agencies all over the United States, and Women's Resource Center, when you were explaining like our brief history that the Lackawanna Center kind of helped us get started, that was Women's Resource Center. So they were the pioneer for Wayne and Pike County as well. So although our services aren't necessarily exactly the same, like we might have a program that they don't have just because we have a grant for it and they don't, just kind of depends, but essentially, yeah, we're pretty much the same place. So the training that you took for them would also count for us.
Okay. All right. The Women's Resource Center still exists under that name?
Yes.
I don't even know.
And they're like my dream. Like that's who I try to model after because they've been around so much longer and their program is huge and they have so many cool things that they do. They have like 1 million followers on social media. And I'm like, how does VIP become more like Women's Resource Center?
Wow.
No, Women's Resource Center is in Lackawanna County.
Well, they were in Holmesdale at that time.
Yeah, so they were VIP did the same thing in Pike County too. So like there wasn't a program specifically in Wayne County or Holmesdale. So they would come and help, like they had small grants where they could afford to send an advocate to help somebody if they had a victim here back in the day before VIP came to fruition. So they really helped create VIP. So we're like, I don't want to say a subsidiary of them because that's not the right word, but they were critical in getting us started.
Thank you.
Great question.
Sharon has a question.
Yeah, just two things. If someone is having difficulty in the home, how do they know who to reach and how to reach you? I mean, if something was happening in my house, I wouldn't have your number. I wouldn't have any idea. So what is the outreach that you do to make sure that a lot of people have that information so they can reach you? And the other question, I'll put it together, is I know that there are times when the police are called and that sometimes it's a disastrous situation that occurs when there's a problem in the home because the police are not trained. Do you do any police training to make sure that if they're the one that's called, that there won't be some terrible situation that occurs?
Yeah, you try. Great questions. So to answer the first piece, a lot of people find out about us through word of mouth, especially in Pike County because we're so new to Pike County that people don't even really know that I just answered a question on a Facebook community page for Pike County where somebody asked what happened to Safe Haven, like what services are there in the county now for domestic violence victims, because Safe Haven was a program that closed down a few years ago. It's like we've been here for 5 years, but they still don't really know about us. So we do outreach like this, right, where I'm talking to people, just making other people aware of us so that you can carry the information on. We do a lot of tabling at community-wide events. So like, I know the Zane Gray Festival is coming up. I'm hoping we'll have a table there because there's a lot of people that walk through. That's a lot of people that I can hand off a brochure to. A lot of people I can hand a magnet to or a nail file, just something with our number on it so that they can pass it or keep it with them. And we do a lot of professional trainings with other agencies in the county. So like we have a great relationship with drug and alcohol services, mental health services. The police have our information. I mean, they probably hate seeing my face because I'm constantly like, here's more, here's more, here's more, fill up your squad cars. The courthouses have our information. So most of the people that end up, at least I don't have numbers to support this, but I imagine that most of the people that end up connecting with VIP have either heard about us through a friend or they were directed by another agency. So sometimes just Thursday, I got a call from the Area Agency on Aging in Pike County because they had somebody that they thought could use our services and they got us connected with them. So it usually comes through a referral from somebody. Because it's hard because nobody thinks about this stuff until it enters their life. So like it doesn't enter your mind until it's happening. So it's really hard. It's hard to get all the information out there as often as we can. But we do our best and people find us. Somehow they find us. And for the second part about the police, kind of a similar situation to schools. We do our best to train all of our officers. We have a really good relationship with all of our sheriffs, who are the ones that would go out and serve protection order notices to an abuser if they've had one filed against them. And in Pike County, at least, I don't know about Wayne County, I know that our sheriffs can also respond to domestic violence calls, which I have this like crazy statistic stuck in my head that over 80% of police fatalities where police officers have been killed have been when they're responding to domestic violence calls. Like that is terrifying. So I do hope, like it's one of our big goals, is to have a better relationship with state police, but they're a revolving door, especially in Pike County where there's new faces every 2 weeks. They come in to get their foot in the door in state police and then they're out as soon as they can. So it's hard to make sure that they all know about us at all times, but we do our best. And yeah, we've had situations where police show up and they just say, oh, if I have to come back here one more time, I'm arresting both of you, which isn't necessarily helpful. But we do our best to explain why that's not helpful. We have programs and curriculums to help train them on primary aggressors so that when they show up at a scene, they can kind of understand power dynamics to to better gauge who is the actual abuser, because sometimes you walk in and everybody has marks, everybody's bruised up, everybody's bleeding somewhere because it was a big fight. But just because everybody is banged up does not mean that both are abusive. That's just, you fight back sometimes. So we work hard to train our police. It's not always super successful. But I can also say that for every bad experience we've had with police officers, bad experiences our victims have had, I should say, there's been others that are phenomenal. Like I remember taking a call from a woman. We were working from home, which is why I was on call. So I was taking all the calls that came in through our hotline for the day because we were in a snowstorm. So we weren't opening our offices. And an incident had happened at her house, and she's like, the police are here, like they are asking us to figure out transport and shelter, like we were all trying to work together. And I was on the phone with her, and I remember her just going like, oh, he's shoveling my deck. I was like, who? She's like, the police officer. While I'm on the phone with you, he took her shovel and went and shoveled off her steps and her deck so that her and the kids could get out without having to trudge through the snow. And I was like, those are the moments that we need to remember, because we get frustrated with the police sometimes. We just do. We're coming from very different places, and they're trying to protect themselves, because every time they go to a domestic violence call, their life is on the line. So they're trying to survive too. But it's hard. I hope that answered your question in a really long-winded way, because remember, I'm a talker. So.
Thank you.
Heidi, Camille, you have questions?
I just have one more thing to say. I know that I used to go, when I was still in the area, setting up tables for all of us to collect some money to give to the local charities, yours being one of them. And very often someone would come up and say, I was so helped by VIP. I really appreciate it. So I just want to let you know that there are people out there that really appreciate all the wonderful work you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
And they have the courtesy of coming and at least saying to us that they were helped and appreciated. So I just want to say that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's nice to hear too, because I think sometimes people come to us when they're in the middle of that crisis, and then they start to get better and things calm down, and then they go away and we don't see them. So oftentimes we don't know the end of the story for some of our clients. So just knowing that they come up to us too when we're doing community events, and it's so nice for them to be like, I worked with Linda for 3 years and she saved my life. And I'm like, oh, I know, because Linda's wonderful. But it feels really good to hear those success stories, because you don't always have them. So thank you for sharing.
Okay. Heidi, Camille, any questions?
Camille already shook her head.
Okay, all right, never mind. Okay, never mind.
Well,
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's so wonderful to just hear all of the ways that VIP is helping and being such a wonderful, wonderful resource in the community. So often, I think that one of the most supportive things that someone, an organization or a person can do is really meet somebody exactly where they are. You know, just meet them where they are in the present moment and help them through. So thank you so much for all of your good work, and how impressive. I mean, if I'm doing the math right, then VIP is about 36 years old, and that's just truly amazing, amazing work. So our closing words are from Dorothy Day. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into the pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has the right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. That's Dorothy Day. She was one of the chief energies behind the Catholic Worker, and led houses, all sorts of different places where people could come and have their needs met. We're going to do one more chant. And it's kind of about meeting each other where we are. It's very simple. I hear you calling my name. I feel you holding me. I hear you calling my name. I hear you I feel you holding me, calling my name, holding me, welcoming me in a circle of love. That's it. I hear you calling my name. I hear you calling my name. I feel you holding me. Do that again. I hear you calling my name. I feel you holding me, calling my name, holding me, welcoming me in a circle of love. What's that? I hear you calling my name. I feel you holding me. I hear you calling my name. I feel you holding me. Calling my name. Holding me. Welcoming me in a circle of love. Welcoming me in a circle of love. So Chester, maybe because you're the guest speaker today, I would love to have you come up and be able to blow out the candle. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and make manifest in our days until we are together again.
Hey, we did it.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for attending on Zoom. Welcome, welcome, Camille, Tom, have a good vacation. Heidi, I hope your car is good tomorrow. And Sharon, it's always a pleasure to have you from Easton,
I
Pennsylvania.
know. Thanks so much,
That's on
everybody, for all
Tuesday,
your work.
Camille.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay.